Nvidia owners everywhere need to watch this. But before I get to that, Valve's upcoming Steam machine is going to be really expensive. A new monster chip, next-gen Ryzen are nearing release, and AMD's finally taking this seriously. Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. First up for today, I have some terrible news when it comes to Valve's upcoming Steam machine, and it's all about pricing. For anyone who's been around during a console launch, you may have noticed that pricing is typically really good when compared to PCs with similar specs. And that's because historically, console makers will initially sell the hardware at a loss. Because once they lock you into the ecosystem, they make the money back through game sales, subscriptions, and platform fees. So given the Steam machine is trying to be a console for PC gamers, the question becomes, will Valve take the same approach with the Steam machine? Luckily, Linus from Linus Tech Tips recently asked Valve this question, and if you haven't seen the video, they told them that they expect it to be very competitively priced for a PC. It will still be priced like a PC rather than like a console. Basically, that says it all. If you were hoping to pick one of these up for like $500, I really don't see that happening. In fact, they said something really interesting, well, kind of horrible right here. It says, Valve wasn't able to give any specific numbers due to rapidly evolving market conditions. So yeah, I don't see it being anywhere near that because don't forget that this isn't expected to be released until early next year, which means the insane memory prices will likely be through the roof by then. It may even get to the point where Valve is forced to postpone the release. I haven't heard anything like that. There's no hints from Valve or anything, just completely my speculation, but regardless, when it does release, it's definitely gonna be expensive. But first, I know I'm not the only one who's been traveling, and I get to the hotel only to realize that I forgot either my cord or my wall brick. I know we've all done it, and today's sponsor has the perfect solution. Ugreen and their new Nexode 100-watt retractable charger. Yeah, you heard that right. A 2.46-foot retractable cable is built into the brick, so you never have one without the other. And this cable can deliver up to 100 watts to charge a 14-inch MacBook Pro from 0 to 54% in just 30 minutes. Plus, it has 3 extra ports to charge up to 4 devices at once, so you don't have to carry other chargers. It's the perfect solution to any vacation or really anyone who loses their cables. Not only that, but Ugreen just launched their new MagFlow magnetic power bank, which is an ultra-fast 25-watt wireless power bank with Qi 2, and it can charge an iPhone 17 Pro Max from 0 to 50% in 38 minutes. This thing has saved me more than once already, and no joke, I'm actually using it because I needed to use it. Check both of these out at Ugreen's Black Friday deals event in the description to get up to 40% off. And next up for today, AMD just unveiled an absolute monster of a chip. I'm talking this bad boy comes with an insane 432 gigabytes of HBM4 memory and 19.6 terabytes per second of memory bandwidth. Yeah, if you were wondering why memory prices have been skyrocketing, this kind of stuff right here is exactly the reason. It's called their Instinct MI430X, and this one is primarily aimed at HPC workloads, AI as well, but the main focus is double precision FP64 compute versus lower precision compute like FP8, FP16, etc. This is better for scientific simulations, physics, engineering, quantum compute, all of that kind of things that benefit from FP64. Regardless, I mean, like I said, it's an absolute beast. We'll have to see if Nvidia has anything to compete with their next generation, but regardless, here's definitely where all that memory is going. Next up, I recently shared the first benchmark that was leaked for AMD's next-gen Ryzen APUs. Well, it looks like AMD's very much gearing up for a release really soon because we now have benchmarks for 2 other chips. As you can see right down here, we have one for the Ryzen AI 9 465 and Ryzen AI 7 450. And yes, like in my last video, this completely confirms that AMD is continuing the Ryzen AI naming scheme, but But regardless, let's just kind of go over these chips. The Ryzen AI 9 HX470 was the first one that was leaked, so we already went over that. But then this, we first have a 10-core 20-thread part, and this one comes with the 12CU880M. Then we have the Ryzen AI 7450. This one is an 8-core 16-thread part, and it comes with the 8CU860M on the iGPU. And given these specs, this completely confirms that these are based on Gorgon points, and that those leaks on Gorgon point were correct, because these are clearly just a refreshed version of Kraken points and Strix point. Either way, according to video cards, we should start seeing these appear in Q1 2026, following the official announcement at CES 2026, meaning apparently these are going to be initially announced in January of next year. And next up, AMD's finally taking ray tracing seriously. And let's just say Nvidia needs to be worried. As you saw in my last video, AMD officially announced that their next-gen FSR tech will officially launch on December 10th of this year. Now, I say next-gen FSR, AMD is currently calling it FSR Redstone, but I would assume that it'll eventually be called something like FSR 5 or something along those lines. Either way, alongside this announcement, AMD actually shared this, which goes over the tech, frame generation, ray regeneration, upscaling, all of that stuff that you've already seen. But what they've done that's different now is that they're completely calling it FSR instead of Fidelity FX Super Resolution, meaning just like Nvidia pulls all of their different tech into the DLSS umbrella, AMD is now doing this for FSR. So it's FSR upscaling now, even though super resolution, the upscaling side of it, is already in the name. Then we're looking at FSR frame generation, FSR ray regeneration, FSR radiance caching. Basically, AMD is releasing a slew of new technologies above just frame generation and super resolution. And of course, one of those was ray regeneration. Don't forget that it was already released with Black Ops 7. Well, Digital Foundry recently compared AMD's ray regeneration with Nvidia's ray reconstruction tech, and their findings are really interesting, because while AMD's tech does do worse in some ways, it also beats it in others. For example, just kind of go over a couple of these. As you can see right here, so we have AMD's ray regeneration over here on the left and ray reconstruction over on the right. And well, for one, this is one of the downsides. You'll likely notice that Nvidia's version looks a little bit crispier, just looks a little higher resolution than AMD's. But watch this. Let's see if I can stop it on time. Okay, right here. When they go away, it goes away here, but you can see some ghosting on Nvidia's side. So that's actually something that AMD does a bit better in ray regeneration. And then there's also this one right here that they do. When you look in, you can see that because of the movements, it's kind of messed up this shadow right here. They'll actually mention it. It blurred the object's silhouette, while over here in AMD's ray regeneration, it doesn't do that. Now, like I said, there are some issues, and to sort of point those out, or at least a little bit of them, as they state, so this is just real life right here. As reflections move further away from the object, they lose their sharpness. And this is something that, for whatever reason, AMD isn't doing with theirs. This one right here is actually a good example. In the reflection, it just kind of stays more or less the same amount of blur the further away from the object you get. Regardless, this is just really interesting to me, just because it does prove that AMD, at least in some areas, is absolutely catching up to Nvidia. Now, as you saw, they do also have some problems, but I think it proves that AMD is not playing around anymore, and they are absolutely gunning to get the top spot when it comes to ray tracing and all of these new technologies. And lastly for today, every Nvidia GPU owner needs to watch this, because Microsoft's October Windows 11 update destroyed your FPS in some games. I'm talking like half the performance sometimes, but I'll get to some of those numbers in a minute, because luckily there is a fix. As you can see right here, it says Nvidia pushed out a new GeForce Hotfix driver to address performance drops affecting some games in Windows 11. It says Nvidia doesn't list which games are affected, only that some titles may run slower or feel less smooth. Now, because this is a hotfix driver, as they state, Nvidia warns that hotfix drivers receive limited testing, and basically these are like beta builds essentially, but if you're having issues with a game where it just feels laggy or slower, like something's definitely off with the FPS, you definitely should check this out. Just keep that in mind. And they also stated that the full fix will be rolled out in their next major driver release. So that definitely is great news, but just how good news? Well, like I said, we don't have an exact list of what games are affected by this and which ones aren't, but there are at least a couple games right here that someone shared pre-hotfix and post-hotfix, and as you'll notice, the FPS is pretty drastic, or at least it can be. So the most drastic one that I saw here is AC Shadows, and we're talking from 55 FPS pre-hotfix to a whopping 100 FPS post-hotfix. Now, Ghost of Tsushima is another example, but it isn't anywhere near as drastic, but still enough to matter. We're talking 107 FPS to 119. I've also heard some people mention Battlefield as another game that's been affected. Haven't really looked up or tried to find a complete list. Like I said, there really isn't one, but there definitely do seem to be a number of games that are affected. This, of course, is great news, and if you are having this issue, I'll have a link to the hotfix down in the description. You can't just get it from the Nvidia app or anything like that, but let me know what games you're seeing that are affected by this down in the comments below.